Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here. This is my spoiler-filled discussion for the Assassin's Creed film. Of course, if you guys don't want any spoilers, maybe you were super late seeing the film like I was, so you don't want it spoiled for you, or you just want to check out my spoiler-free review in general, there's a link in the description so you can check that out, and then if you want to, you can come back to this and let me know what you guys thought about the film in detail. But just to get right into it, I'm going to just go straight through the movie because it was a really simple movie. It was just like it's this, and this, and then the movie was over. But it was good. And starting from the beginning, that was one of the weird things. It was like, okay, it starts when he's young, and they have a little scene where he tries to ride his bike, which I thought was going to be like a thing where it's like he's trying to get better, and it was like, no, he fell once, and then it went to the next scene, which I personally thought was kind of funny. I was like, that's weird. You never see that where the main character, even if it's just a flashback, like they fail once, and it's like, all right, I'm going home. Like, you never see that in movies. They always keep trying, and if they fail like 4 or 5 times, then you see him go home. But it was like, he crashed and then he went home. And I was like, alright, well that was weird. I didn't expect that. It was just he tried it once and then he was done. So he goes home and then we have his father kill his mother. And that was like one of the few things in this film that I thought just didn't make a lot of sense. I was so confused by why they did that if they knew what was going to happen. Like, not only did the father kill his mother, like he mentions, like, basically she killed herself. And it's like, he was like, I should have killed you then, but I couldn't. Like, you're my son. And I was thinking, why didn't he kill himself? Because he got captured during that sequence, and they used him for the exact same thing they were going to use Cal's mother for, and the exact same thing they actually used Cal for. So not only did Cal get used, but so did his father after killing his mother, which seemed to be the whole purpose of her dying, was to stop them from being used. So they were, all 3 of them, well, I mean, she died, but the two guys who were left alive still ended up getting used anyway. So he didn't kill his son, which would have stopped him, and he also didn't kill himself, which would have stopped them. And I mean, I think it was from his mother's bloodline. It wasn't his, but his dad was also happened to be an assassin, which I thought that was cool, if I'm being totally honest. I was like, you never see that in the games where assassins end up together. So I actually thought that was kind of cool, because in the beginning it was like, oh, was his dad a Templar, or was he never around and he happened to just come by and kill his mom or something? I was kind of confused in the opening, and then they explain it, and that's when like that one big issue came up where I was like, well, he didn't do a lot of stuff. Like 2/3 of what he should have done, he didn't do, and they ended up using Cal and his father anyway to at least attempt to get answers, and they got them from Cal. But after that, we skip time, and Cal is in prison for having like killed a dude or something, so he's sentenced to death, and then of course he wakes up, and that's when we get into some of the good stuff. Once they actually put him in the Animus and we actually see him become Aguilar, I thought it was cool. And they give like the actual beginning, which honestly that was one of my favorite scenes, was seeing Aguilar actually become an assassin, because I just assumed it was going to be, poof, we jump right in, but they kind of did it like the very first game, and also the second one as well. Actually, pretty much most of the games, we see the main characters outside of Ezio from like the extra 3 games that he had. Every time we got a new character, we saw them join the assassin. So I guess it's like every game. But it was just like the first one where we saw him during his final like trial, where it's like, he's basically just saying an oath and stuff, and they slice his finger off, which I was like, holy crap, I didn't think they'd actually like have that segment and show it. So I was glad that they did that, because that's just a big part of the franchise, at least from like the first, actually just from the first game. And then it was like once they skipped to the point where you play as Ezio in the sequel, it was like, yeah, they, Leonardo da Vinci was able to fix all that crap. He was like, yeah, I just made some modifications, and he was, it was good. But I thought it was cool. It's like, okay, I didn't think they'd actually show them do that, but they say nothing is true, everything is permitted, so that was awesome. I really didn't know how much they would truly utilize the franchise. I kind of forgot, after, when I was going into the movie, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot Ubisoft actually worked on the movie, so they used everything that they had. Like, they used the saying. I was like, that's how little faith I have in video game movies sometimes. Like, that is the phrase of the franchise, and I was like, oh, I'm surprised they said that. Like, that doesn't make any sense, but that's what video game movies have done to us. Like, I didn't think they'd even say the main phrase of the freaking game. But I was happy to see that. I love the design for the characters. Like, they, obviously it was attire appropriate, so I thought that was pretty cool. The action, I mentioned this in my spoiler-free review, I thought was really good. I love the first action sequence where it's like 4 different assassins, and that made me think of Unity. Even though I never played it, that was the point of it, even though that whole game just fell apart. But you know, the 4-player aspect where you know you could have a different weapon and different clothing outfits from other players, and I was like, that's cool. You know, Aguilar, excuse me, he was like on the roof, and then the other 3 were like in the crowd and stuff, and they were using different weapons, and that was pretty cool. So I definitely enjoyed that. I'd seen most of that opening scene, well, not most of it, but I'd seen some of it because that was like this sneak peek clip that everybody was given, was like that first action sequence. And when I saw it, there was still a lot more stuff added to it, and it was still really good. I really enjoyed that fight. Some of the random maneuvers they did, like when the woman was in the front of the cart and she jumps onto the cliff and like wall runs on the cliff to get to the back of the carriage, and she like grabs the cage to swing around and fight that guy. That was like a 2-second spot, and I was like, that was really, really cool. And it's like, that's what they do in Assassin's Creed. It's just impossible leaps and stuff because she was going so fast. I don't know, I mean, technically that could work, and it makes sense in a way. But I was like, that just looked really cool. It's over the top moves. They're like doing last minute saves on each other, like when she got pushed onto like the horse part, which also didn't make sense why she took the thing, and I was like, why'd she do that? Because it was the horse's turn, and she like let him fall off the cliff, which is why they got busted to begin with. And I was like, that didn't make any sense because the horses did actually turn, and then the carriage went forward, and that's why they flew off. And I was like, that didn't make any sense. But during that scene where she was like holding onto the like the, I don't even know what you call it, but the harness thing that was attaching the horses to the carriage, and the guy was about to stab her, like Aguilar comes up at like the last minute and he throws a blade in the guy's back and kills him. Little stuff like that I thought was cool. They had their own boss. Apparently, because that one guy kept surviving everything when the cart like blows up pretty much because the tire gets hit, you know, hits a rock. So he lives through that. He lives through like all the chase sequences and stuff until they get to the end. So I was like, that's cool. Like I could tell that from the beginning. He was like the biggest dude there, and he was like the first person to actually say something. I was like, he's gonna be like the boss character that they keep having to deal with, and that's of course exactly what happened. And I was totally fine with that. I thought it was cool. But I like that opening sequence, and then of course we leave the Animus, and it goes into the talkie stuff, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't really care too much for this. I wasn't super bored by it or anything like that. It was just anything they say here is going to be for people that don't play the game, and I knew that that's what it was going to be, because I'm like, this is just like the game where you get taken out, and then you get the extra information. And it wasn't so bad because it did focus specifically on the 2 characters rather than literally rehashing the actual game. So that was something I was happy about, because I was kind of wrong. Like some stuff was still in there, like what Abstergo actually does and things like that, but for the most part it was like, this is Cal and this is who he was. It's in his blood and all his ancestors. Everybody was just violent. And I can't remember the woman's name, but you know, her talking about how she kind of wants to be an actual hero in the beginning of this film, and I actually like that a lot, where she wanted the Apple of Eden not to just, you know, banish all free will on the planet, but to just actually stop war and violence. And I was like, that's cool. That's an interesting concept, where she is a Templar who doesn't want to really follow the Templar way. And I thought that was really cool, and it made me think of Assassin's Creed Rogue, where in that game you play an assassin who goes rogue and he becomes a Templar, because the assassins aren't perfect. And that was something that they somewhat touched on like a tiny bit in this film, but I like that. I was like, alright, there are allegiances here that aren't 100%. Same with Cal, where he had the blood of an assassin, but he was just a dude who was mad, and he was sentenced to death for killing somebody. So he wasn't exactly falling in line with the Creed stature and stuff. And then he gets thrown into this situation, and all the other assassins in there are like, you know, you're going to lead him to the apple and stuff like that. And they're trying to kill him, and he ends up going through with it because they're like, you know, you have to do it of your own free will or basically you'll die. And they use his own father against him. And I like that moment where he's like, he goes against the entire Creed solely because of the fact that it forced, you know, it was the reasoning for his mother dying, not just in general, but at the hands of his own father. So I was like, that makes a lot of sense, where he wouldn't just be like, so what? Like, I don't know this Creed, I don't know any of this stuff, but I know that you killed my mom because of it, so I want it gone. And I like that idea. It was just, this is a dude thrown into the mix, and he just wanted revenge pretty much for his mother's death. And I like that idea. And of course it changes when it gets to the end and he realizes that it was his mother's choice, that she actually killed herself pretty much. So I like that. I thought it made sense. It was still kind of like a quick switch, like, but it was from his mother's perspective, where she kind of shows him that memory, like, I did it to myself. He didn't actually just kill me, and that was it. And that kind of switched him. He's like, okay, I understand now we're assassins. So I thought that made sense, even though I'm kind of jumping to the end there. But it goes through. We get that extra content, with his dad and stuff like that, and then the little bit where he talks with the other assassins, present day, and we learn a little bit about them, and then we go back into the Animus and we get the segment, which they did some very obvious foreshadowing because they had the scene where I believe it was when Jeremy Irons, because I don't remember his character. I don't remember any of the characters except for Cal and Aguilar, and that's it. Like, so basically, Michael Fassbender and everybody else, I don't remember their names. But when Jeremy Irons' character was meeting the elders, they had him looking at the picture, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Aguilar. So the next flashback is probably going to be them at this thing, and that's exactly what it was. And I was like, okay, that was obvious. They show like this is where he was in the painting, and we get to see that, and that was a cool action sequence. That's when it like really kicked up. I liked the first sequence, but it was kind of jumping around because there were so many different people fighting. It was like, here's this person fighting and here's that person fighting, and then that was when we really got to see it was focused on two people, and they were taking everybody out after they killed their master and stuff, and they're able to get out of the chains. They're doing flips, like the part where he pulls the girl back and the dude cuts her chains with the axe by accident. He just like flips her up and then she goes to attack him. It was cool. Like, they had some great teamwork, and then that's when we get into like the biggest chunk of, or maybe it's like the second biggest. I think this and the ending were probably kind of neck and neck as far as length. This and the last flashback, I mean, when they were in the Animus, were probably about the same length. But we got a really good chase sequence where they're just jumping and parkour all over the place. They're just spinning around and killing everybody and just moving and throwing stuff as they jump off of things. And it was cool. And then, of course, we get to, that was when we got to like the leap of faith and stuff, and he like almost had a seizure, and I was like, holy crap. So it was interesting that technically we never got to see the real leap of faith, because they say that he does it when he does like the last flashback when he jumps in the water and is like, oh, the leap of faith. And I was like, I guess, but it felt a little bit unsatisfying, because I'm like, he didn't land in hay though, so it wasn't really there. But I feel like they made a reference to that before they even did the first one, because during that chase sequence, it was the female character. She like knocked somebody off of a building, and he landed in hay, and I was like, oh, he'll be fine. He landed in hay. Like, he can't be dead. It's Assassin's Creed. So I feel like that was meant to be there as like a bit of an inside joke for people that play the games. Like, oh, look at him falling into a thing of hay. So I like that, because we don't actually see him do the landing during the first leap of faith, because it freaks Kyle out because he just jumped off a building, and that just didn't work for him. So we didn't get to see like the normal super crazy version from the actual game, but we did get to see him do it in the water, and he throws the blade down to like soften the water a little bit, which I don't think would have worked. It would technically work, but he jumped from a really high height, and that's why I don't think just that knife would work. If he had like a dozen knives and he threw them, I'd be like, yeah, that I could see that making a difference. But he threw like one blade, and he had to have dropped over like 150 feet, and I'm like, I don't know if that one little knife dropping would have like rippled the water enough for it to not like be like concrete. But I was like, whatever. As many things as I've seen, and this being based off of a video game franchise where you can jump into hay, and not only do you land safely, but you don't even break the carts or anything. There's not a single part in that game where you land in the hay and your body weight at least cracks the cart or something. It's like, nope, hay is perfect absorbance for all of energy. It's just all your kinetic gone. It doesn't matter how high you drop from. So it was like, whatever. It's a video game movie. I'm fine. So really enjoyed that, and of course he comes out of that, like the final leap of faith, and between the two leaps of faith is like more talking and stuff, and the bleeding effect. That was actually a really cool thing that I did love in the film, is that they sped up the bleeding effect thing, because that's like after I think like 10 hours when you play the first game, they finally talk about that, and it's not until like the second and third game where they really get into it. Like, yeah, that's why I can't think of Desmond is able to do these moves now, is because of the bleeding effect, because he's been in the Animus so much. They had to kind of kick that up a little for the film. Like, all right, he's been here a day. Let's he has the bleeding effect. So I did like that. I was like, that's cool. That's something from the games that made a lot of sense as to why people in the present were able to do that, because of the Animus. So that was really cool, and I was glad that they talked about the bleeding effect and him, actually knowing the skills. And they even reference it where like the bodyguard guy is like, we're feeding the beast, we're just making him stronger. because we keep putting him in the Animus. And he was worried because, of course, at that point they weren't getting any answers, but he was getting stronger and stronger because he was learning all of Aguilar's moves. So I was like, that's cool. I love the bleeding effect being in there. That's a nice reference, you know. And that was, like I said, like 2 to 3 games in when they really got into like the bleeding effect actually being a big part of the game. So that was very cool. And then, like I said, we get to the ending where Abstergo actually gets the information for the piece of Eden and exactly where it is. That whole ending segment in the flashback or within the Animus was really cool. And Aguilar faces kind of his one thing where he actually did love the woman that he was with, and she ends up sacrificing herself. And I figured it was going to happen that way. I was like, you know, she's sacrificing herself, and I'm like, this is going to have some connection to, of course, Cal and his mother. And that was, you know, I thought it made perfect sense, and of course she ends up doing that, and he ends up taking out, you know, the boss. He ends up beating him. And I like the way they did that. It was a cool fight sequence, and he was getting beat up and stuff, and he was about to get killed, and he uses her blade, which this I thought reminded me of Unity, because that's when they first introduced like the little crossbow thing. Even though they had like a gun in the second game, it was like just a little dart shot off. So that's why I thought of Unity more than 2, because it was a full-on gun. But I thought it was really cool. I was like, okay, he used her wrist blade, and he shot the piece off, and it actually stabbed him. And then he, you know, kind of finished him off with his little cool moves and stuff, which were, you know, he could have just stabbed him once and killed him, but it had to be dramatic. But I like that. And then we had a cool, smaller chase sequence when he was, you know, underground, and he beat up a couple people, and he, you know, I don't know what he set on fire, but he grabbed like the torch of one person and he threw it back, and I was like, I don't know what that was. Like, it wasn't like he smashed a barrel unless I missed something. But I was like, I don't know what that like random flame was that just like poof, like it was a bunch of fire for an instant. I was like, what did he just throw that on? He just threw it, and then something lit on fire really fast, and I was like, okay. Still look cool visually. I like the visuals for him being in the tunnel and just the scheme of it, but it was nice. I like that. And then of course we get the actual ending action sequence in the present where all the assassins are like breaking out and stuff, and that was cool. I wish all those guys lived because they didn't get any focus really, which made sense, you know, for it being this film. But that one dude who was like the leader of the assassins that actually broke out, he was sweet. Like, he was beating up everybody. When he goes through and he like actually unlocks the doors for everybody else, and he fights like the couple people in there, that first guy ran up on him and he kicked him so hard. I was like, dang, this guy does not F around. He kicked him once and he was down for the count. And I was like, man, that would be cool if he made it out. But then, you know, they all break in and capture him, and then they kill the youngest guy as well. So it's, you know, only the last 3 survive. But it was a cool action sequence. Like, I really like that when he like drops the grenades and the assassins just start, you know, beating up the security guards. I thought that was a cool segment, and that's when we have like this, it's not a memory, but it's, you know, it's Cal seeing all these different ancestors that he had, which I thought was pretty cool. It wouldn't have made sense, but that would have been like the only place they could have put an exact reference to the other characters from the game. But, and that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, they should have put them in there. And I was like, that wouldn't even make any sense because that was all Desmond Miles' ancestors. And I was like, that actually would have been dumb. That, logically speaking, that would have made no sense. So I'm glad they didn't do that. It would have been a great reference, but they still could have had it be him in the different style outfits, and that would have worked too. It would have been like, okay, that's not exactly Altair, but it's the same sort of outfit. All they would have had to do is just have him in white and just do a red sash and just have a brown, like, don't have it in the exact same place, obviously. It would be like just the red, white, and brown. That would have been a reference to the first game. The second game would have had to be a much fancier outfit, but they kind of had a reference to Unity because I felt like that was almost the exact outfit from Unity. It was one of the guys, and he had like the jacket and like the button-up white shirt, and I was like, that's almost the exact outfit from Unity. So I feel like they could have done it, but it's not that big of a deal that they didn't have like that exact cool reference to like, oh, here are all the characters, like how I have on my shirt. So they obviously didn't need to do that, but it was still a nice little segment, and that's when he figures out this stuff, like he needs to be a true assassin, and they escape, and you know, the Templars have the Apple of Eden and stuff like that. So it was very interesting. I like the way they did that, and of course he ends up killing Jeremy Irons at the end, and that's when they did like a weird twist, and that was one of the biggest issues I had. Like, even from the beginning when they did the whole mom and dad thing, and I thought that was a little weird how it didn't really make a ton of sense. The ending, it almost bugged me a little, because I'm like, the whole movie she was talking about how she wanted to do good and use the Apple of Eden and stuff like that, and then at the end, because her father gets killed, she was really mad and upset, which I understand, you know, your parent being killed, but it was like she was mad mostly at herself, and that's why she did it. And I'm like, but you're like, your dad, all these people are really bad people because they want to wipe away all of humanity, in free will. And I know she caused it, but I'm like, you're technically the good guy in this crazy situation. And then she kind of became a villain at the end because her dad died. And she was like, I caused this, and I'm going to find the apple of Eden for the elders. And I was like, I kind of don't like that. It seemed like such a fast switch, but if anything this is probably the one situation where I'd be like, I give it a pass because it was her father dying, and it really was her fault. That's the one reason I even give it a remote pass, but it still bugged me because it was just like, everything that happened, what else would she have expected? I mean, I guess her whole plan, the whole movie, was to find it and then just steal it herself. That seemed like what her plan was, which is kind of a very simple plan, but that didn't work out, and now the assassins have the apple of Eden, and it seemed like she kind of just, poof, I'm a villain now. So I was like, well, that kind of bugs me. I don't think it matters. As much as I enjoyed the film, I highly doubt this got like so much money it would get a sequel. Wouldn't hate it if it did, because I think this is definitely one of the best video game movies that we've had. So I hope it gets a sequel, and they, make this movie even better if, we actually get a second one. Worried about that a little because they destroyed the Animus. I don't know if they'll go the route of the actual sequel games, and it's like, hey, here are the other modern day assassins who have their own version of the Animus, and we get to see that play out. But we obviously need some stuff from the past. It can't just be all present, because even in the games, that's just not good. Even when you could actually play as Desmond in the present stuff, it was cool because it's like, wow, you never get to play present day assassins where you're sneaking around. But even now, Ubisoft doesn't do that. It's like you play a random person who means nothing whatsoever, and that's pretty much it. I know there's been some stuff. I haven't played either Unity or Syndicate, so I know there's some other stuff where you get involved with the surviving assassin characters from the older games, but even they don't focus on it as much anymore. So if this movie gets a sequel, I'm very curious how that could possibly play out. But I certainly enjoyed it, and I think, like I said, I think this is definitely one of the better video game movies. I think they had a good story with it. It was certainly fine. I think it was really fast paced. I didn't feel like I watched a nearly 2 hour film. It kind of did go fairly fast, and that's a good thing because I enjoyed pretty much everything I saw. Even the lulls, I was like, I know what to expect here. But even that was a little different because they didn't just rehash everything from the games like I was really expecting. And I was like, okay, at least this focused directly on the actual characters, and it's not like, hey, remember that this is a video game movie, so let's say everything we said in the first game. Even though it's been years since I played it, I'd be like, I know this already because it's been 10 other games where they reiterate what Abstergo is. So I was happy that they didn't just constantly say, like, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and it's just dialogues taken straight from the game. It was like, no, it's focused on these characters and stuff like that. I think it was a good movie. Would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about this film, your least favorite parts about it. Would you like for this to get a sequel? Resident Evil's done. Terrible ending. Really sad. But that just really upsets me because I like some of the other movies in that franchise, and it was such a sad ending for how bad the movie was. But would you care for this to be our next big video game franchise? Personally speaking, I would love it. I think they could just get better with it now that they've already made a fairly okay movie. I think they could only get better. So I say yes, but we'd love to know what you guys think about this movie getting a sequel, and of course what you think about it in general. So